Cool. And up next, we have Meghna Suresh, who is the product manager with Groupon. Meghna, if you could just give us a quick intro as to what you do at Groupon and how long you've been with the company. And
yeah, absolutely. So, by the way, really excited to be here. This event's been awesome. But so I'm a product manager for our relevance product at Groupon, and so basically what that's all about is kind of matching customers with content, right? Taking our inventory of over 500,000 deals and then determining, who the optimal person is to kind of see that deal, in email, mobile, web, so across all platforms. I've been at Groupon for about 2.5 years now, so kind of transitioned from an analytics role into product management, which has been really exciting.
Cool. So how does setting up a mobile storefront differ from a brick and mortar? How do you? What are some of the things that you've had to encounter that other folks wouldn't have had to deal with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think when we think about the differences between brick and mortar and online, it's also almost worth considering some of the similarities, right? Because that's something that not a lot of people think about, but when you walk into a retail store, there's a lot of thought that goes into what's merchandised at the front of the store, what's put further towards the back, what do we put at the cash registers when people are about to kind of check out.
Right.
We have to think about our business very much the same way, right? What goes front and center on our homepage? What are the things that we should only really merchandise when people are kind of searching for them organically? The key difference for us though is our store can be different for every single customer who walks in the door.
Right.
So if you were to go to Groupon today, we would merchandise types of things that you might be interested in, which could look dramatically different from things that I'm interested in. And it's also a question of data collection, right? In the online space, we're literally able to track every time someone looks at something, which isn't quite as easy to do in brick and mortar retail. And so we're able to just do a ton with kind of data mining technology and being able to tell what customer preferences are, what customers, where they came from, so did they come in through email or did they come in directly typing in Groupon.com on their browser? Those are two very different customers, and we're really able to kind of optimize for that context that customer comes from.
Very cool. And how long have you guys been a Tableau user? Were you an early adopter or more recent?
Yeah, I was definitely one of the earliest adopters of Tableau at our company. So,
cool.
we kind of started using it about 2.5 years ago, which is actually when I started at the company. And, we would do a lot of our reporting in Excel, and I think people were just, they were transfixed. Like the first time I ever presented a Tableau dashboard at a meeting, I think people were just like wowed by it. It's the most kind of beautiful visual tool that we ever had at that point. And we just kept growing and growing our user base, and now pretty much every analyst at the company has Tableau. So
wow, and how many folks total is that on the product?
So it's not just product, so it's kind of across the organization. So, we've obviously got, an analytics team for product that's, about 5 to 10 people, but then there's also analytics teams of similar size across local, goods, getaways. There's a bunch of data scientists using it, and that's a huge team of people. And then of course we've got a ton of people viewing these dashboards, right? So
sure.
Everyone from a sales manager or an inventory manager to a product manager is actually kind of being able to view their business in a very interactive, and just fast-clicking format.
Sure. And being one of the early adopters, were you also involved in the decision of which visualization tool to choose?
So at that point, I think we were kind of trying Tableau out, and the decision had been made to kind of just to see where we were able to go with it. And when we did, we just never really looked back. We were able to automate so much of our reporting, but beyond just automating it, we were able to uncover insights that we never really were able to before, just because it was so easy to build multi-dimensional, sort of multi-layer scatter plot of something, and we would find outliers in our business that we weren't able to find before. Things like that, where it was just really easy to build a quick visualization in 5 minutes that would have taken all day in Excel, and so we would never have really thought to do it before.
Very cool.
Yep.
And again, if this is secret sauce and you can't say anything, what were some of those? You said you uncovered insights, found outliers. What were some of the big things that's maybe public information that folks don't know about that you were like, that's amazing, and we wouldn't have found it any other way?
I'm trying to think of things that I can publicly disclose. I can talk a little bit about some of the stuff I talked about actually in my Tableau session yesterday.
Okay.
Which is, we've actually been able to find some really creative uses for Tableau. And so the thing I talked about in my session was actually our use of Tableau for heat maps.
Okay.
So since I'm on the product team and on the relevance team, really important for us to find out, what customers are engaging with when they come to the site.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be a very difficult problem to kind of visualize in an easy way. But with Tableau, we've been able to plug in all of the different metrics that we need to, right? So everything from click-through rates down to how much revenue are we making per pixel or per impression on a particular click target on the site. How does that all perform relative to each other? And so by doing that, we've been able to uncover, which widgets perform really, really well. So most of our customers see the recently viewed deals widget on our site, and that's something that we found does extremely well when placed on the home page, for example. And so these are all the things that you as a customer might actually see when you're on the site, but there's a lot of kind of data-driven thinking and analysis that actually led us to put those widgets there in front of you.
Very cool. And when you talk about heat maps, is it just the eye heat maps, or do you mouse tracking as well? And
so this is actually not mouse tracking based. So it's based on engagement with the site. So it starts out at the level of the impression where someone looks at something, and then it tracks whether someone then clicks on it and then makes a purchase, and then we track all of the sort of revenues associated with that purchase. So if you were to click on the local tab on top navigation, on average, how much money does that act make us? We're able to track things like that.
Very, very cool.
Yep.
And you'd mentioned all the different groups, mobile, the product team, can't read my own writing. It sounds like a lot of folks are using the product. How are you guys collaborating either through the product or through other tools about the product?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you kind of alluded to, it's a very collaborative process. We've usually got an analytics team that owns the sort of Tableau environment, but there's also all these other teams. We work very closely with business intelligence and IT in kind of optimizing all of these tools so they can be used at scale. So very often, it starts out as a collaboration between an analytics team and a product team, and they kind of figure out, okay, we're going to launch this product or run this A/B test in the next 2 weeks. Let's think about what introducing this new element on our site might do. Let's figure out what the KPI or the metric is that we're going to try to optimize for, and then let's figure out what the data pipeline needs to be in order to kind of get us there and being able to measure it in a scalable way. And so then an analytics team might kind of take that business problem and say, okay, here's how we want to frame the problem. This is the metric and the KPI we want to look at. Let's go talk to our BI team to see if we can aggregate this data in a more intuitive way. And so we've got BI engineers that would work closely with the analytics folks to kind of build some sort of aggregate table or data model that's maintained by the BI and engineering teams. And then we would work with IT to kind of then build this front-end Tableau user interface that's then kind of optimized and run on a daily basis. And then we've got tens, if not hundreds of people across the company using that dashboard in a matter of weeks.
Very cool. It sounds like there's kind of two. You guys are doing a lot of what Mr. Pink spoke about today in the keynote, where you're giving a lot of autonomy to your people, but yet you've got this goal, metric, pipeline, sort of defined process, and certain people have to create tables and so forth. How do you strike that balance? It seems like those two are in conflict, and there's probably a bit of tug of war back and forth.
Yeah, I would actually look at Tableau as more of a way to democratize information at the company. So, it actually gives people the flexibility and the freedom to come up with an idea, say, okay, I'm going to build a data model in our sandbox environment, which is an environment where people kind of get to play, right? They get to kind of come up with an idea, build a data model, and Tableau then makes it really quick to kind of iterate through that process. So if I have an idea and I just want to test that hypothesis, but I don't want to sink a month of analysis into doing it, I can very quickly come up with a data model on the fly, build a dashboard or a visualization in Tableau, and if the idea doesn't really pan out, I haven't sunk a lot of time into it. And so giving people the power to do that, I would say actually greatly increases the autonomy that we're able to give everyone at the company.
Absolutely. And when somebody comes on your team, how long is it for them to get the product until they're actually kind of doing something useful and you're like, oh, they're on their own? So
the thing that I was most struck by with Tableau, so I've helped kind of onboard analysts onto teams and stuff before. And so, the things that are more difficult to learn, right? Things like SQL, which is a database querying language. I found that Tableau is one of the things that is actually the easiest to train people on. I tell people it's basically like an Excel pivot table on steroids, right? It's you've got basically drag and drop functionality. Once you've got a data pipeline that's coming into your dashboard, you can pull in any combination of measures and attributes and start kind of creating things within minutes. And so I found that onboarding process has been pretty easy. Usually within less than a month, people are able to build kind of basic visualizations pretty quickly, and then people get advanced also pretty quickly from there.
Very cool. Yeah. And in that month, like what are they pretty much free run? Do you have to sink a lot of time into helping them learn the product, or are they kind of just, you give them the product and a month later,
Yeah.
magically,
Yeah.
they're doing stuff?
I mean, I think the easiest way to kind of learn this stuff is to get your hands dirty, right? So,
Yeah.
we usually start by thinking about a type of problem that would be well visualized or conceptualized in Tableau. And then usually we kind of give people the free rein to kind of, work on the project and then come up with something. So it can be a very hands-off process because the product is fairly intuitive to use and grasp.
Cool. And yet at the same time, it's got some more advanced capabilities, some that just got added in this keynote as well.
Absolutely.
What are some of the cooler, like more advanced stuff that you'd like to tell other folks that you guys have maybe found useful?
So you're talking specifically about the stuff from the keynote, or?
Possibly either one. If you guys have used things historically that really helped you, extract value out of the product, or things in the keynote that you anticipate could help you in different ways.
I think there were a lot of things in the keynote that I thought could be game changers, especially some of the new analytics capabilities, things like sort of things that historically used to be the domain of data scientists, doing clustering analysis in R, for example, where
cool.
you would have to know a programming language like R, Python to be able to do that. And Tableau now gives you the ability to do a clustering model on the fly, right? You don't need any programming. And so again, really democratizes the process by which people are able to do that. I think, I'm a visualization nerd, so I think a lot of the new kind of visualization features were really cool. Just all of the advances that were made to maps, for example, having greater levels of detail and granularity for maps around the globe. We're a global business, and we're now going to be able to kind of visualize our business, not just in the US, but in every country that we operate in. So I'm really excited about those features.
Cool.
Yeah.
And being the product manager, how does some of the data that you extract out of Tableau help guide the decisions of what you're going to throw in the next version or A/B tests?
Yeah. So I would say, it's really twofold. It helps us both seed ideas, and then it also helps us measure and track those ideas once they've been implemented, right? So tools like the heat map help a lot in seeding ideas. I can look at a heat map and say, wow, there's this asset that is merchandised fairly low on the page. Not a lot of people see it, but when they do, they convert really, really well. And so then I'm able to go to someone and say, hey, I think we should elevate this particular asset, give it, make it more front and center and give it more exposure. And then once we come up with an idea like that, we're actually able to use Tableau to then track how it does. So what I personally spend a lot of my time in with Tableau these days is with all of our A/B tests. We're running hundreds of these across web and mobile at any given time.
Wow.
And so it's a lot of data to grapple with. You've got a bunch of users that are in one variant of a test. You're trying to figure out if the test is producing lift. You've got to look at this across a whole bunch of different dimensions, right? Because while we sometimes apply our A/B tests to the entire population of users, maybe the test is really only producing lift for one segment of our users. And so with Tableau, we're able to not only visualize how every test is doing, whether the results of the test are statistically significant, but also, is there a particular group of deals or a particular group of users for whom this is working out really, really well? And then, I can really kind of tailor and customize our features around those insights. And so that's what I find really valuable.
Very, very cool. It seems like you guys are heavily data-driven.
Yep.
You've talked about, you've got to prove it with data.
Right.
So a lot of companies are going to that model. Did you guys start with that in your DNA, or did it kind of evolve and become a DNA, data-driven sort of company?
Yeah, I would say we've always been data-driven, but obviously Groupon's a company that grew very, very quickly. And so, the growth in our data, which is something that not a lot of people think about, but we were once profiled as the fastest growing company in history
Really?
in Forbes. Yeah, and
Oh my gosh.
And so, our data also grew in leaps and bounds with that. And so there was some time that was spent kind of playing catch up, trying to, clean up things in the data warehouse, kind of get tables and things like that in order. And then once we were able to get there, and once we were able to get Tableau as well, we were kind of really able to get to a good place in terms of extracting insights from data fairly quickly. But we're a fairly young company, and I would say we've always been data driven, and we've always been thinking about metrics from day one.
Very, very cool.
Yep.
And being the fastest growing company, I had no idea. What are some other tools or some learnings that you've went through that maybe you're glad you chose that tool, or you would have done something different, or what would you tell somebody who's got the next fastest growing company?
Yeah.
Where are the dragons? Where's the treasure? What can they do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're a company that expanded really, really quickly, and in that process, we also kind of fundamentally changed our business model, right? So one of the things that I talked about in my talk yesterday was how we were 100% email when we started out, and how we're only 20% email today, right?
Big
so I would say
change.
that the thing to really keep in mind is, now we have to be focused on that. I mean, email is obviously still a very important part of our business, but we need to be really focused on that 80% as well, right? Because people aren't just coming in from email anymore; they're coming in from by typing Groupon.com in their browser. They're searching for things. Search is a huge part of our business. So I would say, when you're really fast-growing company, you have to think about the growth of your customer base,
Right.
and the fact that the customer that you conceptualized and had on day one is probably not the customer that you have today, right? That email customer that we had on day one, that represents 20% of our business today. And so
Right.
we've had to fundamentally change the way we merchandise deals. Had to change our whole business model into being sort of a pull marketplace, having over 500,000 deals. So all of these people across these different segments of the customer population can find what they're looking for.
That is very cool. And speaking about evolution, how 100% was email before and 20% now. The next big thing that's coming, obviously, the IoT devices, Apple
Right.
Watch, all these sort of things.
Yeah.
What do you guys? What do you personally just see like in the next 3 to 5 years? How is the landscape going to change? And what are some cool things companies like Groupon may be able to start doing for their customers to get that better personalization?
Yeah, absolutely. We're making a lot of advances in sort of personalization and data mining and things like that. That's definitely going to continue. We did just launch an Apple Watch app, and mobile is going to be a really, really critical part of our business going forward. And so, that's definitely where a lot of the focus is going to be. We're definitely, we're going to have to make everything much more frictionless and seamless than it used to be. If you think about the early days of Groupon, you had to print out a voucher and go, redeem it at a merchant.
Sure.
And now we're going to have to make it sort of, if you're on an Apple Watch, it's going to have to be a one-click purchase model, right?
Right.
So it's about kind of designing the product to be as easy, intuitive, frictionless as possible. I think that's definitely where the future is going to have to be for us.
And what are some of the tools that you use? Like there's the whole field of, I'm going to take a total left turn here, but it seems like it ties in, like mobile application, multi-platform application development tools where you can write the language once and deploy it anywhere. Have you guys had any experience with those? Because it seems like those are starting to get more mature and folks are looking at using those, but you hear mixed results.
So you're talking specifically about
like
the process
the Xamarin's, the companies like that you can write an application once and deploy it out to different mobile and then supposedly IoT devices coming on. Have you guys looked at those at all, or are those?
So we've got fairly ingrained development teams that have been sort of developing products for our different platforms for a while now, and so that's generally the model that we follow.
Is native?
Yeah, everything's sort of native.
first.
And we've got folks that are working on our iOS app or our Android app, and so our mobile team's constantly growing. And so we do tend to in-house most of this stuff. I've been following a lot of companies like Xamarin. I think they're really exciting. I think it makes the process of iterating on an idea a lot easier, which is also what I love about Tableau. And so I think anything that makes it easier for people to kind of come up with an idea, get their hands dirty, build something, and push it out to market, always a really, really great strategy.
Right. And get all the nitty-gritty tools out of the way.
Right, exactly.
And get you connected to your user.
Yep,
Very
exactly.
cool.
Yep.
Awesome. I know that you had one session yesterday. Can you tell us about that session and any more that you've got coming up?
Yeah, so that one session was actually it. But so I was talking about how we merchandise our online store, and then speaking a little bit more about using that heat map tool that I alluded to earlier, to be able to kind of visualize where customers are engaging with us online, what they're clicking on, and how we make decisions around what assets we put and where, and in front of what type of customer. And so I kind of talked through the evolution of our business model, the process that we generally follow to kind of come up with our site layout, and how we use Tableau to kind of inform all of the testing that we do so we can provide the best personalized experience to our users.
Very cool. Yeah, and everything I believe here is recorded. It'll be out in like another week or two. So anybody who didn't catch that session, they can go back and see everything.
Absolutely.
Cool. Megan, thank you so much for taking time with us.
It was great to be here. Thank you so much.
Enjoy the conference.
Yeah.
Take care.